Hello ladies and gentlemen, Reginald Scott here, and this is the video or the series of videos that you've all been waiting for, basically revealing all the information I can give you about the hit and run video, the hit and run incident that happened to me back in 2014. First off, can I say thank you so much for all the messages that you sent me. It was very strange for me reading all those messages because it's been over a year now, and these are all yours, by the way. I always turn my phone off at night, so I get them coming in later, and they're all fantastic, absolutely fantastic. I'm so surprised at, like I say, how kind, how generous, how thoughtful you've all been, and it really has touched me. As I say, it was over a year ago now for me when this happened, and all the emotion that I can feel coming out in your messages is very similar to the emotion that my family felt, and my friends felt, and I felt at the time of the actual incident. And it was so weird for me reading those messages because it kind of all brought it back, and I kind of relived the whole thing. You know, the anger, the frustration, the just sheer shock and surprise of how things went. And you know, as I say, it took over a year to kind of move on, accept it, put it down to experience, and just be glad that, you know, it wasn't more serious, that I wasn't killed. It could so easily have gone that way. So in this series of videos that I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be trying to update you on several different things. This video is going to be about the hit and run itself, how I felt on the day, what my thoughts are about the actual hit and run event. Some of your questions about what I did afterwards, you know, because a lot of you have been asking, have you done this, have you done that? So I'm going to try and answer those questions. Then I'm going to do another video on the trial and the CPS. I'm going to do another video on what the police did. And then if there's any more questions that you've got, I've got your questions here up on the screen. Firstly, thank you very much for all the offers to take the video, the original video, and kind of work with that and try and get more out of it. I did actually manage to get the original video evidence to a guy who works for police video forensics, so he's an expert in video forensics. This was not official. The only reason I got this treatment was because I have a friend of a friend, basically. That's the only reason. The police themselves, as far as I know, did not use this guy, even though he's local and the head of the department, as far as I'm aware. You know, obviously I won't mention any names, but he basically did it in his own time, and he, you know, took the video stuff and did whatever it is that people do with video evidence, try and bring more out of the image. He says that it's a common misconception that you can actually enhance video. He said this comes from like TV programs and stuff like CSI and things like that. But everything that is possible, he's already kind of tried. But thank you very much for the offers. I really appreciate that. I also appreciate the offers of crowdfunding and donations for a legal case, a private case against the individual or individuals that actually ran me over. I am amazed that people would be that generous to offer me money for that private prosecution. I have to say thank you very much for those offers, but I've already actually got a private prosecution against the insurance company, as far as I understand it. I did go to one of these no win no fee type people. That's now been going on for the best part of 14 months. So they were very quiet for a long time actually. I was sending them numerous emails trying to get some information from them, and I was being ignored when I rang them on the telephone. And you know, funnily enough, as soon as I posted this internet video and all you guys started commenting I think that basically pushed them to do more, and the very next day they sent me documentation to sign to then press forward with the litigation against the responsible parties as they saw it. So it's actually thanks to you and thanks to YouTube that actually things are moving forward with that. Many of you asked if I went to see an MP about this, or that I should go and see my MP. I did go and see my MP about this. I've got some letters here. Sorry, Ken Clark, CHQC MP. And what's that dated? That's 21st of October 2015. So I did go see my MP after everything kind of fell through with the trial. And we had a brief discussion. Personally, I really like the guy. He's seems like a nice guy. He's into jazz. The conversation we had wasn't brilliant. He is obviously a politician, so he has to watch what he says. At first he didn't think it had anything to do with him. He was like, basically, what do you want me to do about it? You've had a terrible accident, you've gone to trial, the trial has gone the way that the trial's gone, that's it, what do you want me to do about it, basically? It's kind of what he said. He said that, look, I don't know the details of the accident, I don't know the details of the trial, he didn't have time to watch the video. That was basically his perspective. So I said, okay, well, can we maybe look at doing some things for cyclists? So I said, the first thing was I want like more education for drivers, so we need some advertising campaigns. And he said, no, that's not necessary, we've already got campaigns, we're already doing enough. So I was like, okay then, what about cycling infrastructure? And can we have more cycling infrastructure? And he said, yeah, we've given loads of money to cycling, hundreds of millions of pounds or whatever. Loads of stuff has been built in London. I'm thinking, yeah, well that's true, but we could still do more, plus the fact in places like Nottingham, for example, we're not seeing that kind of radical infrastructure change that you're getting in London. That's because there's less cyclists, but the old expression, build it and they will come. Many people have said to me, look, this is the reason, your video is the reason why I won't cycle on the road. If only there was a cycle track where I lived, I would cycle. So the fact of the matter is people would cycle if there was the facilities, but sadly there aren't the facilities, so they're not cycling. But he's saying again that they've given enough funding for that. And then I said, okay, fair enough, well can we have a Dutch legal system then that protects the cyclists further, gives them more rights, and makes it easier to get convictions against drivers? And he also disagreed with that. He said we shouldn't go around and start changing the law. He was kind of against the idea of having a Dutch system. It didn't go the way I wanted it to, let's put it that way. And then they sent me this letter. This is from the Department of Transport. The only thing they mention about Nottingham is between 2011 and 2015 we're in receipt of 15.25 million, I think that is, funding from the department's for Department of Local Sustainable Transport Fund Programme. And this programme is designated to help local people connect to jobs and services and support the local economy by promoting greater use of sustainable travel, including cycling. So what it's saying there is a percentage of that 15 million in Nottingham went towards cycling. But with all the stuff they're doing with the trams, digging up the roads and all that stuff, I don't know how much of that has actually been gone towards cycling. And there are a lot of cyclists out there complaining about the tram, how dangerous it is for cyclists in Nottingham. Every cyclist I know has a bad tram story. I've come off on the tram tracks twice, at least, and now I avoid the areas where there are tram tracks because there's no guarantee you're going to stay on the road. You hit the track, it doesn't matter how you hit it sometimes. If it's wet, damp or cold, your tyre just goes away from you. And there's not really much you can do about it. So yeah, yes, I 100% feel that the driver did this intentionally. Okay, and the evidence for that is fourfold. Firstly, when they pulled up behind me, they stopped at the traffic lights. Now, if they had not seen me or did not know of my presence, I would have thought that they'd have already bumped into me at the traffic lights. Now, I was lit up like a Christmas tree. I had got 10 LEDs on my rear, flashing bright red. One of them can be seen from 1.5 miles away, according to the advertising. So I got plenty of flashing lights. It was daytime. I was wearing a day-glow jacket. My bike is bright red. My shoes are actually covered by reflective overshoes. I got reflectors, I got a bright red helmet. So it's like the case was that there's no way they didn't see me at the traffic lights. Now, seeing as they actually followed me around that roundabout, it stands to reason that they still knew I was there. Now, my positioning around the roundabout, I pulled up in the middle at the traffic lights to stop people from squeezing by me and obviously causing danger that way. And then as I came around the roundabout, I maintained central position, or as close to centre as I could, simply because as you turn in on wet, the road surface was wet. As I was turning, I just didn't want to lose traction, so I was basically taking it as wide and as smoothly as I possibly could. As soon as I came around the corner off the roundabout, I moved right over. Even though it's a 2-lane road, and really I could have maintained central position, I moved over just to be nice. So I moved over. I thought any sensible driver will move over to the right-hand lane and pass me safely, like most cars were. Unfortunately, this guy decided to take me out. And another thing that keys me into the fact that they knew I was there and they knew what they were doing is because on the original video evidence, you might not be able to see this on the YouTube video, you can see them having a conversation. You can see their heads turning towards each other. You can see their hand gestures. I believe they sort of gesticulated in my general direction. I believe they made an offensive hand gesture as well. And the fact that they were having a good chat and turning to each other and then looking back to the road clues me into the fact that they were aware of their surroundings, that they knew what was going on, that they were capable of talking to each other, communicating and seeing things. Just before they hit me, you can see the driver's face. He's not looking down at a phone. He's not looking at the central console. He's not fiddling with something. He's got his top hand on the steering wheel, quintessentially male driving position, and he's looking straight forward. Again, something else that clues me into, he knew exactly what he was doing. He maintained his line and he just ploughed straight through. And the final, the other thing, I think the third thing that clues me into the fact that they definitely knew what they were doing is the passenger did nothing. Like if my body hit the light cluster on the front of the car, I went up the bonnet and then I hit the door pillar and came off the side of the car. Now at that point my body or my legs would have been blocking the view of the passenger. So there's no way the passenger didn't see me. And yet the vehicle never stopped. So the passenger must not have turned around to the driver and say, "Look mate, you just hit somebody." Which I think most of us would do, or "What are you doing, you freaking idiot, you've nearly killed somebody." You know, most of us, if we were in a passenger seat, we would say something to the driver if they just mowed down the cyclist, wouldn't we? So that tells me that both of them were in cahoots, both of them were, to blame for this. Irrelevant whether they were driving or not. You know, the passenger made no attempt to stop the vehicle, or to persuade the driver to stop, perhaps. And that also is indicated by the fact that both times you see the rear end of the vehicle, once as I'm turning in the air, you get a shot of the rear end of the vehicle, and then once as I hit the ground, I make a real effort to turn my head to the right to try and catch a glimpse of the vehicle, even though it was more painful and I actually felt more comfortable with my head to the left. I turned my head to the right to look at the rear end of the vehicle. And as I do that, both times you see the rear end of the vehicle, there's no brake lights showing. The fact that there are no brake lights showing means that they're not like a normal human being who would be, if they were distracted on their phone or playing with the radio and they hit something, they would immediately brake, wouldn't they? That's what we'd all do. You know, it's our first kind of flinch reaction or flinch response when something happens is to apply brake, even slightly. And there are no brake lights showing at all. So the guy made absolutely no attempt to stop whatsoever. He just ploughed straight through. As for what happened like immediately after that, when I was lying on the floor, a security guard, supposedly, at the local NHS walk-in centre, saw the whole thing happen on CCTV. That's quite an important point that will come up later during the time I talk about what the police did. And he sent some nurses out, or a nurse I think, to come and stay with me while we waited for the ambulance, She put a blanket over me, if I remember correctly, which was great because I was absolutely freezing. The floor was wet and all my heat was just transferring straight through to the tarmac. I was getting very cold very quick. And the first person to pull over was a guy who's actually contacted me on Twitter and YouTube. Very nice to hear from him. I hope to have a longer conversation with him later. But he was the only person initially who pulled over. And this Good Samaritan, he actually said to me in a Twitter message last night that he couldn't believe that there were so many cars just driving around me. I mean, there were a lot of cars that came after the hit and run, after the Volvo driver had mowed me down, and they just indicated and moved around me and didn't stop. Neither did they chase the vehicle. Nobody chased the vehicle. Nobody tried to stop the vehicle. Nobody initially pulled over to help. Like there's a body lying in the road and it's just like, oh, indicate. No. I was actually very fearful while I was lying in the road that someone was going to run me over, but I couldn't move. My back was shot. Like, my muscles would not work in my legs, and there was no way. I was totally disabled. There was no way I could move at all. I was just lying there sort of panicking about moving because I thought, well, if I move, I could be in a wheelchair for the rest of my life. If I don't move, I could get run over. What do? You know? So again, thank you to him. To the other people that just pulled around me, what are you thinking? You know, at least try and stop or follow the 4x4, the Volvo. That's what I would have done in that situation. If I'd have been right next to the 4x4 or just behind the 4x4, I think I would have noticed him ploughing through a cyclist. I definitely would have done, actually, because I'm always aware of where the cyclists are as a driver. CT, I think it was the Cycling Weekly, found out that insurance companies believe that cyclists are better drivers, and that's probably because we look out for vulnerable road users more. But I would have definitely noticed that, and if I had noticed that, I would have chased that Volvo down, and I would have made sure that when he stopped, I was there to call the police and get a good, clear ID on the driver. Nobody did that. Everybody just let him carry on. So that's a bit bad, but thanks to all your comments, my faith in humanity is most definitely restored. Now, the police didn't make any huge appeal for witnesses. They didn't put one of those signs out, as far as I know, saying there was an accident on this date, we're appealing for witnesses. I don't recall them doing that. Certainly they never told me they did that. All they did was took down the details of the people who were still standing there when the ambulance arrived. So, and most of those people didn't see the incident. Only, I think, the driver who initially stopped, he did. But everybody else who actually witnessed the incident, who possibly even saw the face of the driver, they've never come forward. Right, that's the end of part 1. Part 2 is coming up shortly, and that, I think, will be about the police investigation. Part 3 will be the CPS, and part 4 will be anything I've missed out. So thank you very much for watching. Please stay tuned. Feel free to make comments in the bottom there if there's anything you want to see. And as always, please stay safe, and thank you again so much for all your supportive comments and all your offers of help. I really, really appreciate it. And a shout out to all the wonderful camera cyclists out there who've rallied around me and just given me so much advice, so much support, and just kind words, basically. You know, people I haven't heard from in a long time have all been writing me messages, and it's really been wonderful. So at least that, you know, there's something positive come out of this, and you know, hopefully this is going to do something positive for cycling and cyclists in the UK. And the reason why I started my YouTube channel since day one was for cycling safety. Anyway, thank you again, and as always, stay safe. Reginald, Scot, wishing you a very happy day, and stay tuned for part